it's really easy to get caught into the femininity that comes with all, the mompreneur, the fempreneur, all of the things when they are still actually just wrapping around a very masculine approach that has existed for years and years and years. And so, being careful that it's not just in pink wrapping paper.
Are you feeling overwhelmed, stuck, or uncertain about how to grow your business without sacrificing what really matters most? Welcome to The Business You Really Want, the show for women ready to build a sustainable, fully aligned business. Aligned with what, you ask? You, your values, your life. Seriously, it is possible. I'm Tonya Kubo, and along with business advisor extraordinaire Gwen Bortner, we're here to show you how. For years, women in business were told that the problem was dude, bro, hustle culture, right? That is why the advice being given did not match their lived experience. And so we as women, the fempreneurs and the mompreneurs out in the world, right, created something new, boss babe culture, which became such a big deal. It's actually trademarked, right? So we won't be using that terminology very much, but the term boss babe is actually trademarked. And I can't tell you who holds the trademark, but there's somebody. But it has become now synonymous, right, with women in leadership and women who are running successful businesses, and especially in the online space. And yet, what if we didn't actually change the system? What if this, trademarked boss babe culture is actually no different than the dude bro hustle culture that it was trying so hard to escape? What if it's just in a different outfit? Gwen, I just want to kick this over to you because this is something you and me have talked about over time. And like, again, we can come up with a different name for boss babe, but it's really this like one word amalgamation that is to represent the female CEO conquering it all.
So when you first mentioned it, it just cracked me up because it's absolutely true. Most of the things that are shared under any of those monikers about, lady boss, girl boss, boss babe, all of that is still about work, make this thing happen and you will be, large and in charge. And not that there's a problem with that. Mm-hmm. The problem is thinking that that is not hustle culture. Mm-hmm. That is still hustle culture. That's what the problem is. Not that doing all of those things is a problem. That is totally okay. But thinking that it is so much different than the dude bro hustle culture that's going on is where the problem is, because often they're purporting to say, oh, we're going to do this completely different marketing, activity. And it's like, no, that's the exact same marketing activity, mm-hmm. Just done in pink.
Right.
This is the exact same sales tactic, but mm-hmm. done with slightly more feminine words. All of the tactics are just lining up exactly. Mm-hmm. And so when someone says, oh, this is so different, it's like, but tell me how it's actually different. And I think that's the place that a lot of women who really are trying to buy into their own, person and their own, CEO-ness in a very feminine way are getting stuck, is because it's still really a masculine definition mm-hmm. of it. Instead of saying, what truly aligns with me? What are the things that actually matter to me? How are we going to approach it? And to me, that's where this challenge is, and why I think it's important that we bring it up, because it's really easy to get caught into the femininity that comes with all, the mompreneur, the fempreneur, all of the things, when they are still actually just wrapping around a very masculine approach that has existed for years and years and years. And so, being careful that it's not just in pink wrapping paper.
Right. Well, and, so I had actually put like a little kind of a throwaway sentence in one of my newsletters.
Which cracked me up, yes.
Right. Yeah. Again, you get my newsletter, so you've read it. And it was, so I was talking to a client, and I'll just, for the listeners' benefit, I'll kind of summarize. And like in 2025, she doubled her revenue, and she's like fully booked with one-on-one clients. But she booked a session with me because she wanted to discuss doing more in 2026. And her big thing was, I need a leveraged offer. And she's walking through all these different options, right? Group program, paid workshop, membership, blah, 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 like all the things. And so we just started talking the math, like, okay, so you'd have to sell this many, how much do you think you would sell this for? Sell this many at this amount, blah, blah, blah. What makes sense for you? Like, how much would you have to make for this to be worthwhile? And everything was not penciling out for her. And what we came to was like, financially speaking, she does not need to make more money. She's good, right? She's good. But when we were talking about that, I'm like, so why can't you just say you're good and like move on? And she was like, well, it's hard to say that out loud because I could be doing so much better. It's like, well, how? If you're paying your bills and you have enough for vacations and all of those things. And it came down to, well, I'm not paying myself 6 figures. And 6-figure business, right? A lot of women are told that that is the marker of success. And it's like, but you just told me you don't need to pay yourself 6 figures. Like, you're good.
Right.
And, working the hours she wants, doing what she loves, paying herself a fair rate, has time for family and hobbies, but she's a failure because she's not paying herself $100,000 a year. She has fewer than 100 email subscribers and fewer than 1,000 social media followers. And she was like, it doesn't feel like enough. Now, Gwen.
Hello, hustle culture.
Right. I was just like, like speechless. Because how many women listening to this would just kill to have that sort of scenario, right? Paying themselves enough, having hobbies, having all these things, not overworking, all of that. First of all, right? Most of us would be really, really happy. And it's not that this woman wasn't happy. It's just she genuinely believed she was quote unquote settling because she's surrounded by influencers, we'll call them, who are telling her that she needs to aspire to more because the very fact, and they don't say this overtly, right? It's implied. The very fact that you have a hobby or the very fact that you don't work weekends automatically means you could be doing more. You're not working to your fullest. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions, Gwen. One is, have you ever fallen victim to this sort of thinking? And and why or why not, right? Because maybe you're the unicorn and you never get sucked into this trap. I can fully talk about me getting sucked into this trap. But also, if you have been sucked into the trap somewhere along the way before you and I started working together, you got yourself out. So talk to me about your journey.
So where I think we get sucked into it, and I have gotten sucked into it. I should be doing better. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I'd love to say I never get sucked into it. Yes, I do get sucked into it. And where it happens is when we're spending lots of time with other people. And I'm just going to say people. It doesn't have to be women. It doesn't have to be, it could be on social media. It can be in person. It can be virtually in networking rooms. It can be in memberships. The list goes on and on and on and on, right? I mean, when we're in groups and we allow ourselves to fall into the comparison trap, because what we're doing is we're comparing 1 or 2 points of data that we have about somebody else with our 1 or 2 points of data that match up, right? what's their top line revenue, whatever thing happens to be coming in. They're driving a nicer car. I don't care what it is, right? The list goes on and on and on. But we usually only have 1 or 2 points of data, and we're comparing those two and we're saying, oh, they're so much better. And so we feel like we should be able to do that as well. Especially, oh my gosh, especially if you're like, and I know I'm smarter than them. I know I have more experience. I know I deliver a better offer. I know, all of those things. Is like, why do they have that and I don't?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But the other reality is we don't know all of the data points. And we usually don't even know a reasonable number of the data points to make a choice. So to me, anytime I get sucked into it, and I'd love to say I never get sucked into it, I still totally get sucked into it. We have those conversations. I still get sucked into it. I'm able to pull myself out pretty quickly because I can identify I am doing the comparison trap.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We did a whole episode, I think, on the comparison.
I was going to say, yeah, we'll reference that episode with this one.
Yeah, right. But that to me is where we get caught in the I should be doing better, I should be doing better. And to me, that's a place where we're coming from a mindset of scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Of, well, somehow I don't have enough. Somehow I don't have enough. And that, I need more of the pie. I need, whatever it is. Sometimes we do need to do better. So I'm not saying that that's always the case.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we really do need to do better for, all of the reasons. But if truly things are in alignment, I'm making enough money, I'm paying my bills, I'm doing the things that I want to do, I actually have time that my brain can rest and do other kinds of things. In my world, we call those hobbies. I'm spending appropriate amounts of time with my family and friends. I am not feeling exhausted. I'm not feeling overwhelmed constantly. I'm not, not that I don't ever feel exhausted and I don't ever feel overwhelmed, but I'm not, that's not just like a standard, life experience day to day to day to day. Maybe it's okay to be okay. And that's a really hard thing for us as people, particularly in a capitalistic society, to accept.
Yeah.
And even more so women in business, because we've always taught we are behind the 8 ball. And so that's the message we've been getting from day one. Well, you're paid less, so you have to work harder. All of these things. Not that that's not true, because it is true. We're still paid less. We still earn less. All of those things are still true. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we keep having to do more. There's a point that we can say, nope, this is good enough. I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think, and this is because I've worked under the hood of some of these, 7-figure, 8-figure businesses. So first of all, I know the staff that runs these, right? I know that there are some cases where the CEO is there on a mic saying that they don't work weekends and they're, off at noon every day to hang out with their children. And that is 100% true. But what they leave out is the fact that there are 14 other people who work until 6 every day and some of whom who work 7 days a week, right? Like
Right.
It takes a village, whether that village is one person working 125 hours a week or it's, a big team, each working 40 hours a week. So there's that piece.
Back to we don't know all the data points, right? We don't know all the data
right?
points.
You don't know all the data points. The other thing that I would say, and this is a little bit about not knowing all the data points, but it's a little different. I think when these people are talking about how get off the television and don't do this and don't do that and da-da-da, it is entirely possible they're not talking to you and me, right? It's entirely possible they're talking to a totally different self-proclaimed entrepreneur who is pre-revenue after being in business for, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, who doesn't get out of bed till noon who's trying to live the laptop lifestyle life before they've ever sold a thing. But yet we hear, our thought is that when those people are talking to the quote unquote lazy people, they're talking to us.
Right. Yeah. That is a true thing as well, is that we often put ourselves in a position that is not the position of who, the experts, the influencers, the whoever are talking to. Not uncommon. Not uncommon.
So we've diagnosed the problem here. We have agitated the problem, as the dude bro marketers would tell us to do. So what is the solution to the problem, Gwen? What is the solution?
For me, the first is, and we talk about it all the time, so it's like not new information. If you've listened to more than, 5 or 6 of these podcasts, I'm sure you've heard us say this before. You got to be really clear on what you actually want and what actually matters to you, not what all of the other voices that are swirling around, whether they're your family, whether they're your friends, whether they're your, business colleague, associate, networking, power partners, whatever you want to call them, influencers, social media, the list goes on and on and on and on. You got to really get clear with yourself what's actually important. And it needs to be important enough that you're willing to not only own it, meaning do the work to get it, but also own it, being able to say the thing that is not popular in all the rooms, right? And to say, no, I actually don't work on the weekends. I don't have a staff of 20, and I also don't take home $10 million. There are pieces. And realizing in some cases that means there's going to be choices. There are going to be choices that need to be made. The whole idea of you can have it all, that's just another version of hustle culture. You cannot have it all. You cannot have it all. That is not the way it works.
Gwen, I can have it all. I just can't have it all at the same time.
Yeah, that's not even true either. You can't have it all. There are always going to be trade-offs. But what's important is, are we trading off what's most important for things that are less important, or are we trading off things that are less important for things that are more important?
Mm-hmm.
And back to being, my mom is exceedingly wise, and it's not about having what you want. It's about wanting what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so be careful about what you want. It's a slippery slope when what I want is this, and it's like, but why do you want that? What is that actually going to get you?
I was going to say, it's not so much be careful what you want. It's get really, really clear on why you wanted it.
Exactly. And that's what I mean by
Is
be
it
careful
what you want?
about what you want.
Yeah. Is it what you want? Is it what somebody else wants for you? Is it what you're told you're supposed to want because of your upbringing or your past or whatever? I have had, I've had enough experience with women in business, with men in business. I've worked with people who are striving to attain validity in the eyes of somebody else, which quite honestly, it doesn't matter how hard you work and what your results are, they will just raise the bar. Because good people in your life don't dangle carrots for you to earn your success or your acceptance. I'm not a therapist, but I'm pretty sure a therapist would agree with me on that one.
Right.
Right? But I do know people who are like, well, my mom says, my husband says, my significant other says, my kids say. I mean, that's another thing, is when you get to be a certain age and you have adult kids, your adult kids start telling you what success is supposed to look like.
Right.
Weird reversal of roles, I think.
Yeah.
And you brought up a really good point. It's knowing what you want and why you want it. You've told a story to me before. I don't actually know if you've told it here on the podcast, but I'm going to say it and then you can fill in any gaps if I've misremembered the details. But somebody who was working to build this, I don't know if it was a 6-figure business, a 7-figure business, that's irrelevant, so they could have more time with their children. And they worked their children's childhood away.
Yep. I know we've told it before. I know we've talked about it before. And that's the whole thing of, I want the freedom. I want the flexibility. I'm going to work really, really hard to achieve that. And, it goes back to our friend Nick Peterson when he talks about bumpers of, is the thing you're doing actually getting you closer to that thing right this minute? As opposed to, is it taking you in the opposite direction in hopes of getting to that thing? And, and he uses a similar kind of example in his book, Bumpers, which, is, if you want to be spending more time with your children, do you take the giant contract that will give you really, really good money because you're like, oh, because then I can spend more time with my children? But this 6-month contract is going to mean that you're traveling 4 days a week, every week for the next 6 months. It's like, is that actually getting you closer to having more time with your children? It feels like it because I'll have more money and then I can make other choices. But his point, which is a completely valid point, is, yeah, but that's not actually getting you closer to having more time with your children. That's making you have less time with your children. Right.
Yeah.
So I think, that's part of it is the thing that I'm doing actually getting me closer to the thing that I want? Or is it taking me this roundabout way because I think when I have that, I will be able to have the thing that I want?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It's like the person who says, I want to do this so that I can travel more, and then never travels.
Mm-hmm.
I never take any time off because I'm working really hard so I can travel more. Well,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be
Or,
better? Wouldn't it be better if you took 3 days off and just did a little trip
yeah,
now?
or, it's like I value my freedom and flexibility, and now I have the freedom to work from vacation.
Right.
So, okay.
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
diagnosed the problem, right? We have agitated our problem. The solution, first of all, as you've said, is to really get clear on what you want and why you want it. And then I think the second part is confirming, is that what you really want? The
Well,
second
and
solution,
also be careful that when you start down that path, you may realize you don't, and that's okay. It's one of the things I talk about all the time is you can make a different choice.
yep.
Just because you started down that path doesn't mean you have to keep going down that path. Sometimes we don't know it's the wrong path until we've, taken a few steps down it. It's okay to stop and turn around and go back.
And I have to say I've had to do that several times,
Me too.
because partially because of falling victim to what other people told me I should want, but also because my life has changed so much over the years. My circumstances have changed. There was a time when I had to be the breadwinner in this house, and the goals I had and the circumstances requiring that are very different than now, where it's much more of an equitable contribution into the household. And it would be very different if, circumstances changed and I didn't actually have to contribute to the household financially at all.
Right.
I might discover then, I wouldn't know, right? Because that's not a reality I've had. But I might discover then that actually all I want to do are my manis and petties all day. I don't see
Probably
myself,
not.
right? But I would have the freedom to make that decision when that time came.
Yeah.
The other point, though, because I don't want this to get lost, because you do credit Nick Peterson and Bumpers for it, but it's still a really good second step of the solution, which is stop doing the things, or don't do the things, or draw a line in the sand where you will no longer do the things that don't align with what you want. So if picking up your children from school, I'm a mom, so that is the first example I go to, is a priority for you, do not say yes to meetings or obligations that don't allow you to do that. If weekends off are important to you, don't check your email on weekends. I know a lot of people don't think that checking business email is working, and that's fine. That's up to you to decide, right? But if you're telling your family, I don't want to work weekends, and they see you doing what they perceive as work, you're out of integrity with them.
Right. it was interesting. It I was on a call with someone else a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about she wants to have she's moved to a new area, and she moved several time zones away. I don't know which direction, but anyway, she moved several time zones. And she was talking about trying to make some more friends and have some more social things and whatnot. And her excuse, for lack of a better term, was she already has clients that are established, and so either she had to work later in the day, or I think it was later in the day. So now she has to work into 6 and 7 and 8 o'clock at night. Blah 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 blah. And so that makes it really hard to have meet new friends and have dinner and do the the social things that we typically do, because most of us do social things after work, not usually before work, right? And someone challenged her. It was great. I really appreciate it. I was going to, but someone beat me to it, which that's always good. Of Well, why do you have to have those appointments at that time? And what got to it was, well, when I was, and I'm making this up, is like, when I was over in, East Coast time, for them their best time was 4 p.m. But now I'm, over in this other time zone, and that changes it to 7 p.m. Right?
Mhm.
And they were like, you don't have to not tell them that you've moved and that we need to readjust the time. But that was one of those blind spots that she had, of like, no, that all my clients will leave if I do that. I was like, someone might. And, I'm not saying that no one would, right? Because someone might. But I don't think all of them would. Most of them would just say, oh, that's what I need to do. But this is back to, are you doing the things that you're in alignment for, right?
Mhm.
Are you saying, I want to spend more, I want to have more social time, but oh, by the way, I've blocked all of my social time with business,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So actually doing the thing is the first thing. What are the things that you need to do to hold your boundaries, be in alignment, make those choices? I know occasionally you will schedule something over drop off or pickup time,
Mhm.
but it is a very rare choice, and only when you've got enough notice and planning time to be able to actually make sure that that's
Mhm.
all handled in an appropriate way, because that is a priority for you. It's one of the things that I've always admired, is like, that's where your priority is. Good for
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Well, and part of it is, for the listener, because I know that can sound a little contradictory, right? In my case, there was a time where I traveled a lot. I traveled at least a week every month. And it was a time in our life where we had a lot of support, where we were able to access a lot of support that didn't cost very much. Now, as the girls are older, when I leave, it's not just somebody who can like hang out with them. It's somebody who can drive them miles every single day. Replacing me at home is much more expensive. So part of it is, if I'm going to travel, it has to pay 3 times what it costs to replace me. And honestly, there's a lot of cases where I wouldn't charge that much because it's not worth it. So I just say no to those things altogether rather than even have the conversation.
Right.
And there's other cases where I'm like, a person's like, there's got to be a way. And I'm like, yeah, the way has this price tag. And if that's okay with you, then we can talk, it's that price tag and this much advance notice. And then we can have that conversation. But for me, there are just some there's firm criteria. It's not wishy-washy criteria, so that when I do those things, my family knows exactly what the trade-off has been. And it's not so often that I have destroyed my own credibility in my home. Now, there
Right.
is another solution to this problem that you have not brought up, Gwen, but I know when I bring it up, you're going to be like, oh, yeah. And I would argue you haven't brought it up simply because you got past this a long time ago. But I'm going to be really blunt and maybe not make some friends here and just say, you have to limit the influencers you follow and who you allow to speak into your business and into your life. And so here's what I'm going to say. If you are subscribing to email newsletters from amazing people. I don't care how amazing they are, okay? I don't care if you would be their best friend if you lived across the street. If their newsletters make you feel bad about the choices you are making, unsubscribe. You can still proactively go to their website or follow them on social media if you really desperately want to know something. But you know what? Whatever tips they're giving you for free through their newsletter or through social media is not worth the guilt trip you put yourself through because you're not living in alignment with what you think they would approve of. So that's the first thing, right? Minimize the input. So unsubscribe to newsletters, unfollow social media accounts. Like I have a former client. This was something that she did 2 years ago. She realized that she was doing what she called guru chasing and always thinking that the next guru was going to have a better solution than the current guru. And what she realized is she was never getting ahead because she was bouncing between experts too much, but also realizing that she tended to be attracted to experts who had like, you are only successful if, right? Like who were really blunt because she felt a little indecisive. And she was like, the easiest way to solve this and to save myself a ton of money is I'm just not aware of their sales by unsubscribing and unfollowing and not doing that. Right. So I'm not saying turn off social media entirely. I'm just saying minimize who you invite into your inbox, minimize who you invite into your feed. That is a very quick way to stop that comparison trap.
Yeah, no, and you're right. I hadn't thought about that because I am so, I'll just say anti-media on the whole. People still are shocked when I say I have not intentionally watched a news broadcast since like 2000. And people are like, and it's probably before that, but it was definitely since 2000. Like, we're now in the early stages of 2026. It's been over 25 years. Not that I've never seen the news, because of course, you see the news from time to time, depending where you're wandering around. But so I am very much about not just getting bombarded with all sorts of, information and data. I think that's really true. Another version of that, similar to what your story was, and we had a client that I actually said this to. I said, "You're getting advice from too many people." So it's a different version of the guru hopping. Um, but it can be where, well, I've got a coach and a business mentor and a marketing expert and a this and a that and and the list kind of goes on, and and I've got someone who's helping me with my my human design, and I've got someone who's doing somatics, and I've got a VA, and I've got I've got a this and I've got an OBM, and it's like, whoa, where unless they're actually a team working together, which this was not what this description was at all. Everyone's coming with their own perspective, and most people don't need more ideas. I mean, this maybe is going to be like the perfect tagline to my one question. Most of us don't actually need more ideas. We need people to help us sift through ideas. We typically will need someone. It's helpful to have someone in your world that really does have outside perspective, because when you're too close to it, you just can't see it. I do this for others, but I need someone to do it for me. I mean, even though I'm really excellent at it, I can't do it for myself. It's the nature. It's the nature of the beast, right? So you do need someone to help you with some outside perspective. But when you've got 6 voices giving you outside perspective, now it's just creating noise.
Yeah.
And really understanding where do you need, because the other thing I've gotten caught in this whole girl boss type of thing is, I know I'm really good at this thing, but I'm sure I could be this much better. I could just be a half an inch better. I could be another point better. And that's one of those places where we really are chasing the wrong thing. And it's a little bit about the validation piece that you were talking about earlier that I see happen a lot with women. Most of the time where I have, for lack of a better term, wasted time and money. There was always something valuable that came out of it, but on the whole, it was not equivalent to the investment that was made.
Yep.
Is where I already knew things. I knew a lot of things. And I thought somehow this next piece of information was just going to take me over the edge in some big, big, massive way. Instead of owning, I already had 90+% of the thing, which was 85% more than almost everybody else on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that chasing to be just a little bit better, that is not the place you need to be chasing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. And so, it's really about saying, who are the voices that we're listening for and what are they providing? Because if they're providing, if you're new, you need lots of information. But when you're past new, at some point, you don't need a lot more information. You actually need people to help you have less information, less choices,
It's the curation.
discernment, feedback, all of those pieces to figure out really what is the next thing. Because it's not, most people are there in the entrepreneurial track do not need more ideas. That is not their problem.
Yeah, that is so, so true. And so I think this brings us to about the end of our time together. And so I just want to do a quick recap. So we started, right? Like this dude bro hustle culture, just in a different outfit with a different font and a different color scheme. Right. So, and the problem, right, is that we've somehow convinced ourselves that putting a script font on hustle and non-stop work somehow makes it a different explanation. And then we agitated the problem like a true marketer would do. So proud of me and my peeps here. And talked about all the ways that makes you feel worse, oftentimes stands in the way of your success, and puts you believing that you are somehow further behind than you really are. And then we proposed some solutions. One of those solutions being get out of the comparison trap. Stop agreeing to things that aren't in alignment with what you want and why you really want it after you have determined why is it you want the things that you want. Talked about minimizing input. And now we propose a solution, which you've already done, Gwen. You were so good at that. I didn't really know where we were going to end the episode today, but I think it's a perfect one, right? We happen to have a really good solution. Back to the fact is that most of you listening to this podcast, most of you attracted to a podcast called The Business You Really Want are women who already have a measure of success under their belt. You're already someone other people thinks has totally arrived, regardless of what a hot mess you feel like on the inside. And if you identify with that, the last thing you need right now is more information. What you need is less information that is more relevant to you, that resonates deeper. You need discernment. You need some curation. And to start the path on sitting in the quiet and really learning to discern is about making space for weekly reflection. And that is what Gwen's one question email is. So go to everydayeffectiveness.com/question. You can sign up there. It really is just one question every week. If you choose to reply, Gwen replies, gives you a direct response, personal to you, not some copy paste template-y thing. It's like insert name here. No. Gwen doesn't roll like that. Her email does have templates. I don't even know if she knows how to use them because everything is that personalized. Oh, okay, she does. Now I know her secrets. So everydayeffectiveness.com/question, and we will see you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to The Business You Really Want with Gwen Bortner. I'm Tonya Kubo, reminding you that sustainable success is within reach. Make sure to subscribe to the show and visit thebusinessyoureallywant.com for more resources. Until next time, keep dreaming big and acting with intention.